But it's time to put your foot down. It's time to say, hey, you know what? I'm tired of business as usual. I'm going to vote for somebody who stands for what I believe in. He may not win. It don't matter. I come out of the voting booth with my head held high, knowing I voted for what I believe in. It's not a thrown away vote. A vote is thrown away if you vote for somebody you know ain't going to do you no good. The worst, less of two evil is still evil. You know, but whatever the man is that get in there, Democrat, Republican, Independent, ain't going to come around and say, oh, how can I help you out? Oh, you smoke dope. Well, let me make the penalties a lot less for you. Let's make sure that you don't go to jail. They ain't going to do that. So it's time you ask him to do that. It's time to stand up. It's time to be a person of principle. And say, listen, I'm going to vote for a person who wants to legalize marijuana. I'm not going to buy into your lies. I'm not going to buy into your propaganda. And if you can't talk about marijuana, I'm sorry. I can't vote for you. Plain, pure, and simple. You're not thinking outside the box. You're not thinking about me. You're not thinking about the future of our state. And you're not thinking about the future of this country. And I can't vote for you. But I can vote for Chris Wright. And I can't vote for the Grassroots Party because I know what they stand for. And I know that for me and for people like you and all the people in Minnesota, whether they want to smoke dope or not, they have a right to. And that's your right, and that's every American's right, and let's not give it up. Thank you very much for showing up.
Well, those are some stirring words. Thank you, Jim. You know, he's so right. And, you know, their only reason to change is if you don't vote for him. If you vote for him, well, my goodness, they have no reason to change. Give them a reason to change. Don't vote for them. That's their only reason to change. You know, I have more issues other than just hemp and energy independence. I'd like to end corporate personhood. You know, the buying, selling, and renting of politicians. You know, what's happened lately here is they've had this decision by the Supreme Court in Citizens United versus the FEC. And the Supreme Court ruled and said corporations are persons. They can spend unlimited amounts of money on politicians. They can buy the elections now. Well, corporations don't even have a mouth. How can they have free speech? You know, they get privacy rights under the Constitution too. Well, they'll extend. They want their privacy rights. They'll tell the EPA inspector, or they'll tell the guy from OSHA, get a warrant if you want to come in here if we're polluting or we're hurting our workers. Get a warrant. Well, when that same corporation goes to hire an employee, they say, piss in a jar no matter who you are. Well, boy, they want their privacy rights, but they're not going to give them to you. And then, of course, they have equal protection under the law. So they say, well, hey, if we want to put a Walmart in your small town, and you got laws out here saying, well, we're taxing out-of-state companies or large conglomerates at a higher rate than the locals. Well, they say, well, no, we have equal protection under the law. You can't charge us more. And so then they come into the town, and now all of a sudden the pharmacist has to close down. All of a sudden the hardware store is closing, and all the local businesses are feeling bad. The businesses that are keeping money in their community. But no, now all the money from that community leaves that community. It doesn't stay there to help the people. So the reason why they got corporate personhood was because of a mistake, because of a court reporter's mistake in 1886, where he was writing head notes for the Supreme Court. And every other court after this Santa Clara County versus the Union Pacific Railroad, or the Southern Pacific Railroad, well, they said, well, they said that they're persons under the law, because the 14th Amendment gives, which was designed to give the freed slaves equal rights. Now they're saying that they are persons. So they've used this ever since, and now they can give unlimited amounts of money to campaigns. You know, you got guys like Tom Emmer, who's being pimped by the corporations, and he's their whore for this doggone election. It's funny. We got these right now. The only way you can win an election is if you're rich or richly funded. So we have the wealthy aristocrat, Mark Dayton, and we got the corporate sellout, Tom Emmer, the privileged princes of plutocracy, who are buying the election. Well, when it comes to giving, any time to poorer candidates, no, they won't even listen to us. They won't even cover us, because we don't have a chance to win, because we're not rich. We're not sellouts. Well, that destroys democracy all of a sudden now, because we don't have funding for our elections. And in fact, Tim Pawlenty, in his unallotment, went and took away the state funding for campaigns. So we can't even get this $50 write-off that you can get your money back if you contribute to a campaign for anyone. So now you have to be very rich. So another issue I've got is also single-payer health care. We should have single-payer health care. Why should we have, what we need pay or die mercenary medicine? Why should we, these corporations, they only have allegiance to money. They don't have the public safety in mind. The reason to exercise police power, the reason for government, is to promote and protect the public health, safety, and the general welfare. Well, these guys are only protecting their profits. They don't care about you. They're doing it for money. So let's cut our medical costs in half. I support the John Marty Senate File 118, the Minnesota Health Act. Another thing I'm in support of here is a guaranteed right to education. I'd like to see us have education free of charge, cradle to college, just like they do in Europe and in Australia, and especially in Finland, the most educated population on the planet. They put it in their constitution, a guaranteed right to education, without regard to your wealth or status. Right now, only the privileged are able to afford a college education these days. Well, if we don't allow the underprivileged to rise to their full potential, then we're ruining the state. Our greatest resource is our people. So let's have education for all. Let's have retraining of dislocated workers. Let's have early childhood education combined with daycare. Let's have before and after school care till age 10. So let's be supportive of families, children, and parenthood. So, but the issue I'm most concerned about is ending the narcotics prohibition and legalizing pot. If you could regulate through prohibition, it would be unprofitable for these gangsters to terrorize our neighborhoods. But it is profitable to terrorize our neighborhoods. And I saw this leak that came out from British Prime Minister Tony Blair's cabinet. And they said, well, to actually interdict, prevent the distribution of narcotics would take 60 to 80% interdiction. Well, that might be possible in prison, but they still get drugs in prison, and we wouldn't be drug-free, we'd be unfree. It's impossible to regulate through prohibition. So why do they do this? Why do they insist on gangster distribution? Why do they subsidize criminals and bankroll these gangsters? You know, why do they endanger our children, overburden the courts, overcrowd the prisons? You know, why are they causing corruption of public officials? Why do they support a law that's racist in origin and in practice? In fact, it fosters discrimination by associating criminal behavior with ethnic minorities, promoting this racism all around the world. It's undermining foreign governments. Let's end the prohibition. Let's regulate all the narcotics, just like liquor. I propose that we repeal the statewide prohibition and allow the counties and municipalities to decide how they want to distribute it. Most places will say, well, we don't want any of this. But some places may say, well, we'd like to raise some revenue. We want marijuana. And other places with a bad gang problem might say, you know, we need a controlled substances outlet. Let's raise some revenue. Let's end the terrorism of our neighborhoods. If you want to put the gangs out of business, take the business out of the gangs. Let's do it, and let's end this stupid drug war. You know, I was when I ran for governor in 1998. I was busted for growing 41 marijuana plants, and my case came up before the Court of Appeals, right over here at the Minnesota Judicial Center. That's where I was. And what happened was is there's this thing in the Constitution of Minnesota. It's Article 13, Section 7. It says, any person may sell or peddle the products of the farm or garden occupied and cultivated by him without obtaining a license therefor. It doesn't just say any person may sell or peddle marijuana as a product of the farm or garden, although it was legal in 1906 when this was adopted. No, it went far beyond that. It says any product of the farm or garden. Well, you don't think in your heart of hearts they were going to let me legalize pot throughout the state. They would have defied the laws of nature and God Almighty to keep it illegal, to prevent Chris Wright from legalizing pot. So they said, well, it's a privilege, not a fundamental right, and you can't sell unsafe products. Oh, it's a privilege, huh? Oh, it's only a privilege. Marijuana produces as much food as soybeans. It's only a privilege to feed yourself. Marijuana produces a fiber that can be made into clothing. It's only a privilege to clothe myself. I can make a tent. I can build a house out of marijuana. It's only a privilege to shelter myself. Yeah, some privilege. And then, oh, you can't sell unsafe products. Well, I gave them the DEA, the administrative judge's decision from 1988, where he was ruling on the rescheduling of marijuana to make it available for medical use. And he says, well, it's remarkable, but there's never been a cannabis-induced fatality in 5,000 years of recorded history. In fact, it's safer than some foods because you can get a toxic effect from eating 10 raw potatoes, but you can't eat enough pot to kill yourself. So, I say this. If the Constitution says we can sell and peddle without a license, we can legalize pot throughout this state. We have states' rights. We can end the prohibition and legalize pot and have hemp for victory. We have the right to grow vast quantities of marijuana, sell vast quantities of marijuana, and smoke vast quantities of marijuana. Vote for Chris Wright at the upcoming referendum, and I'll bring back the $10 ounce of Primo Bud. Thank you.